Hello and welcome to Cheat vs. Real, Episode 8. This is DemonSword, your friendly sword consultant. If you're new to my videos, I'm a consultant that you can talk to on Facebook, email, posts, or comments here, as well as message here on YouTube. I will leave my email and my Facebook, as well as, the ability to comment on these videos at your displeasure in the description, as well as a handy little calculation, example. So, first up, thanks for being a subscriber or even viewing the video. In the background I will have an anime playing that you can try to discern which one it is. But that's up to you. It's just a little trick, test, whatever. I feature them in a few of my videos. So, first up, let's discuss some basics. If you're new to swords, I would suggest you start looking into a basic starter sword which has a bowhide. As featured here on this sword, this is my Higo. Higo here is a semi-laminated sword. Now, it has a bowhide, which is a simple groove that goes from here all the way to the tip, basically. Now, that bowhide, when swung, releases a whooshing sound. That whooshing sound is your kind of, I'd say, tool that you, the wielder, get, and it helps you discern different angles of cut and how good they are. So if you do a bad cut and you heard a specific sound, you now know which angle of cut you should or shouldn't do. Now, once you get good enough at doing this, you will kind of start doing it naturally. So that's the point of time you would progress up to a sword without a bowhide. Now, discerning up, most people would get a sword without a bowhide and then have it sent to a craftsman to slowly add bowhides that are more geared to specific functions, such as with the destroyer feet up there. Now, most modern katana makers have a sword of this height. This height, as we discuss in episode 7, is the geometry that is easier to make a reliable sword. The swords are more reliable, they can make more of them, and it's easier on them, the manufacturers / forgers. So, both swords here are forged. One is a semi and one is a mono-tempered. Now, as in episode 7, you've learned that T10 steel to 95 steel and 10 mahogany are all roughly equivalent. So you can get really good steel equivalent to Japanese steel a lot easier than getting the Japanese steel. It's more authentic, it's more culturally accurate, so certain countries need you to have it forged with that to have it shipped in, actually, I've found out. So I've been just stating a fact. They're equivalent if you need them tested. Actually, making mahogany is a lot easier now than doing it the traditional way, with the Tatar forge old style. But back on topic. From this point, if you've gotten a medium target sword, which are these, all these are mediums up. It has, the top one there. You've done light targets, you've done medium targets, and if you're thinking of heavier targets, you'd be looking at something more like the top sword up here, which is my Nana. These two swords are actually project swords that I had custom made and had a hand in creating for this channel. These are specifically geared for my style of combat, and I'm actually trying to practice dual using them, which is Ten something Ryu Katana Strike, which is two full-size katanas. One is a little thicker, one's a little lighter. Heavier, lighter. It's an interesting style. So, I may get that video out soon, if I master or at least get to a general point of being able to do it. Pretty easy. Now, let's give you a handy-dandy calculation trick. This is, again, an estimate that I've kind of designed based on my own experiences, as well as to suit myself. And it's worked pretty well for helping other people find swords, even to do their training, or even the people who are instructors, which was rather nice. So, let's start out with a basic mathematical example. A person is 5 feet 9 inches. As I'm in USA, I use this system. Now, if you convert 5 feet 9 inches to just inches, that's 70.8 inches. Okay, with me so far? Now, if you multiply this by a factor of 0.6, not 6, just 0.6, So 0.6 times 70.8 yields 42.48 inches. That, as a min or maximum, is either going to be 42-inch length or 43-inch length. And that's the size of the blade that should best suit that individual. So I will also post this example in the description below, but there you go. It's a rough estimate to get a sword length that should best suit your needs in terms of doing basic cutting. Now, different lengths can have different effects, such as with the Henna-Beer here. Now, I don't really talk about this much, but there are what are called trick swords, or swords that have different techniques or styles. The Henna-Beer naturally has the ability, when striking downward, which is this sword here, when it strikes downward, it does a basic cut at basic speed. I don't really have to worry about it. But when it does an upwards cutting slash, it's actually faster coming up. That's due to its length and balance, which is an interesting trick feature to do quick rapid strikes. It actually helps in that type of combat, or even just doing Ido, which is what I do, cutting tatami mats. Now, discerning whether you need a mono-tempered sword versus a laminated sword, monosteel versus multi-steel, is a bit of a gray area, because you won't really know until you start using. So I would usually suggest starting with a monosteel and work your way through till you kind of gauge what type of laminating you need. I can usually help to see if a certain lamination will fit your situation better than a monosteel though. It depends on situations and people. Now, a laminated sword usually is lighter, but it's usually a lot stronger. It can do a better job of absorbing shot than just a standard monosteel by a small margin. But the problem with laminates themselves is the more complicated they are, the more room for error in terms of their forging and creation. Does that make sense? I hope. Now, one of the things I will state myself in terms of experience, more heavy target swords, unlike my Namioni, are monosteel. Because heavy targets, which is where you attack a target type that's either multiple tatamis and bamboos together, as well as even having wooden plating to simulate armor types of Japanese samurai, can, be pretty destructive to the sword. Most swords will, over time of that type, will eventually succumb to damage. So most people don't put in the cost to try and create a very well done or even laminated sword of that type. Now, my sword is a laminated. That is the highest level lamination because I needed a faster sword. This is a Soshu Kite laminated sword, 7 metals. This is a Shizozume 5 metal laminated sword. The laminations lighten the sword up, so you lose out on the kinetic momentum, which most hard targets require. But due to the Nanamiomi being a Dadanuki geometry, makes it an easier, thicker cutter. So, light cutting usually is to start off as more fun, but medium targets are pretty much where most people are at. When you start doing heavy targets, you're going to run into getting damage a lot. You're going to run into needing to edge it, polish it. You will get scuffs. It won't look pretty. So, a lot of people stay in the medium range because it's easier on the sword, as well as easier to maintain the blade. So, monosteel are a lot easier to work with because no matter how much you scratch them out, they're the same all over, so you can just easily polish it out. Now, going from the bowhide to a standard geometry blade with no bowhide on it, usually you will start learning that you need to lighten it up in certain areas or tweak it. That's where you do more advanced type of bowhide, such as this one. This type of lightening is a lot thinner. You do little thin dremels, little thin takeoffs of the metal in certain areas to shift the balance forward or backward to help adjust your combat style. Usually you do this when you're more advanced though, so take that into account, my friends. Now, you've gotten a good amount of info, such as calculation of blade length, kind of getting a general idea of what to think on when buying laminated versus monosteel, as well as judging when you need a bowhide or how to develop through up to different types of bowhides. So, as always, thanks for watching, and I hope I helped, my friends.